In July 1947, beneath the endless blue sky of the New Mexico desert, an event occurred that would forever shift the gaze of humanity upward. It was here, near the quiet town of Roswell, that a mysterious and unprecedented incident took place, one so extraordinary that more than 70 years later it continues to spark debate, inspire belief, and provoke skepticism in equal measure. What began as an innocuous news story quickly spiraled into a worldwide enigma, birthing the modern phenomenon of unidentified flying objects and igniting our collective curiosity about the possibility of life beyond Earth. At the heart of this phenomenon lies an event still shrouded in secrecy and conjecture. In early July of that year, a rancher named Mac Brazel discovered strange debris scattered across his land, shiny metallic strips, oddly lightweight, that seemed impervious to fire and unidentifiable to touch. Local military authorities swiftly intervened, collecting the fragments and ushering them away to an army airfield with an urgency that only heightened the sense of mystery. Rumours began to circulate that a flying disc had crashed, and for a brief moment official statements seemed to corroborate that the unthinkable had occurred. Yet within hours, the story changed. What was first called a saucer was now dismissed as nothing more than a weather balloon, an explanation that satisfied few and sowed seeds of suspicion that grew for generations. This was Roswell, ground zero for what we now call the UFO phenomenon. It marked the first time the notion of flying saucers captured the imagination of the public on a massive scale, thanks in no small measure to media coverage and a wave of eyewitness reports from pilots, civilians, and even radar operators. Suddenly, the idea that strange craft were traversing our skies was no longer confined to the fringe. From this moment onward, tales of otherworldly encounters proliferated, from farmers and schoolchildren to military personnel and commercial pilots. Radar blips that eluded explanation, aircraft intercepts that ended in mystery, and sightings recounted in hushed, incredulous voices, all fed into an ever-growing narrative. But amid the thousands of reported encounters, one detail remained conspicuously absent: information about the beings, if any, who might be piloting these astonishing machines. The Roswell crash, for all its cultural reverberations, did not feature the now iconic alien being in its earliest tellings. It would take decades before this aspect, the idea of extraterrestrial pilots, living or dead, would fully capture the public consciousness. Until then, the UFO itself was the star. Enigmatic, elusive, and fundamentally unexplained. As the decades rolled on, the world's fascination with unidentified craft only deepened, fueled by official investigations, secret programs, and the tantalizing possibility that the truth was indeed out there. Yet for all the reports and analysis, genuine, credible encounters with alien beings remained rare. It was as if the universe was content to tease, never truly revealing the passengers said to be at the controls. Half a century after Roswell, a new chapter unfolded in an unlikely place: the hilly, rural expanse of Minas Gerais state in southeastern Brazil. The sleepy city of Varginha, known for its quiet streets and gentle hills, found itself at the epicenter of what many now regard as the most compelling close encounter case since Roswell, a story not just of aerial phenomena, but of contact. On the night of January 13th, 1996, high above northeastern São Paulo state, sensitive radar installations at NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, picked up a mysterious object. Its movements were unusual, its speed and course unpredictable. The alert was brief, but enough to set in motion a chain of events that would soon encircle Virginia in secrecy and awe. The following day, in the hush of early morning, witnesses across the region reported a gleaming silver disc, far larger than any conventional aircraft. Orina, a local farmer, and her husband looked up to see the object hovering soundlessly before trailing smoke and descending rapidly toward the earth. A university professor, Carlos de Sosa, would later recount the moment he too glimpsed that silvery form from his car, a vision so otherworldly it seemed to defy sense. Military units converged on the crash site, their movements precise and urgent. Locals watched as soldiers combed the area, collecting odd metallic slivers, so thin they fluttered like leaves, yet impossible to tear or burn. The air around the debris was heavy with the stench of ammonia and sulfur, an odor so potent it made many gag. Photographs and samples vanished into government custody, and those who ventured too close found themselves confronted by stern warnings and threats. But the most astonishing part of the Varginha incident came a week later. On January 20th, 3 teenage sisters, huddled together and walking a familiar path, would have an experience that would irrevocably change their lives. There, beside a vacant lot in the Jardim Andoré district, they encountered a being that defied description. Small in stature, its skin a glistening brown, devoid of hair, its eyes an unnatural luminous red that pierced the overcast daylight. It crouched against a wall, trembling and seemingly wounded, and emitted a stench so acrid and overpowering that it brought tears to their eyes. For a moment the girls gazed in horror, rooted to the spot. Then panic overtook them, and they ran, screaming all the way home, breathless with terror and confusion. In the aftermath, their mother, initially skeptical, was soon convinced by their trembling and tears that something unthinkable had transpired. Yet, these girls were not the only ones to witness the impossible that day. That same morning, Varginha's fire department, alerted by reports of a strange animal, responded to a call at a nearby park. What they found was not an animal, but a second similar being, frightened and weak. The entity was swiftly captured, its body exuding the same offensive odor reported by others. With military precision, soldiers intervened, whisking the creature away to a nearby clinic. Over the next hours and days, secrecy and confusion spread like wildfire. The second being, the one caught by firefighters, was severely injured. It survived only a short while in the clinic before succumbing to its wounds. Within hours, the army had retrieved the body, transporting it to a secure facility where, according to several hospital staff members, it was quickly and quietly cremated. All evidence of its existence, they said, was erased in the space of an afternoon. The first being, the fragile, frightened creature seen by the sisters, was found hours later, reportedly by military police officer Marco, and this time still alive. The creature was transported under heavy guard to the Humanitas hospital, where emergency staff worked to save its life. Doctors, nurses, and orderlies present that day would later recount strange phenomena: bones of an unearthly green-blue hue, a pervasive chemical scent that clung to all who came near, and, most extraordinary, fleeting moments of mental communication. One nurse would later confess she felt thoughts, not her own, a sensation as profound as it was terrifying. Despite their efforts, the being died soon after surgery, its remains swiftly removed amid a veil of military secrecy. For those involved, be they doctors, guards, or the young girls, fear quickly gave way to dread. Officials from the Brazilian army convened a press conference to address swelling public curiosity, offering explanations ranging from escaped circus animals to misidentified people with physical disabilities. The stories of aliens, they insisted, were fanciful, the products of confusion and hysteria. Yet the attempts at misdirection only intensified scrutiny. Civilian ufologists determined to seek answers began gathering testimony. Local police officers, medical staff, and even the grieving family of Officer Marco all provided fragments of a wider picture. Harvard psychiatrist John Mack travelled to Brazil, interviewing the traumatized girls and finding their accounts not just credible, but consistent, remarkable, given the pressure the witnesses faced to stay silent. Despite hurdles and resistance, the legacy of Virginia has not faded. If anything, it grows stronger, immortalized in books, documentaries like James Fox's Moment of Contact, and the enduring conversations of researchers and believers around the world. Each new revelation, each overlooked detail brought into the light, adds to the mystery and deepens the challenge to those who would dismiss the incident out of hand. We are left, then, with questions that refuse to fade with the passage of time. What happened on those fateful days in the deserts of New Mexico and the lush hills of Minas Gerais? What became of the salvaged objects, of the alleged beings whose remains are whispered to lie in secret vaults or unmarked graves? And perhaps most tantalizing, how many other close encounters remain hidden, buried not only by official denials, but by the fear and ridicule that so often greet those who simply report what they have seen with their own eyes. More than 70 years after Roswell and over a quarter century since Virginia, the world continues to look skyward, sometimes with hope, more often with curiosity, and occasionally with fear. In every unexplained light, every strange encounter, every scrap of evidence that resists easy classification, we find a reflection of our own longing to know. Are we truly alone, or have we, across continents and decades, witnessed the first halting steps of contact? The final answers remain elusive, locked within secret files, faded memories, and the silent night sky itself. Yet the pursuit of those answers endures. Every new witness, every new investigation, and every brave recounting of an extraordinary event joins the great chorus of inquiry that began on a ranch in New Mexico and was renewed in the fields of Brazil. It is a chorus that insists again and again that some mysteries are too important to leave unsolved, and that perhaps the truth is closer than we think.